What's up, y'all? Kyle Hamilton here. I want to give a quick shout out to Lucas, Conor, and Ryan in the Week Zero podcast.
Jackson rolling out, 3rd and 7 after the penalty, and it's a completion to Kuma. He's still running. Kuma breaks free against a tired defense as the Hokies deliver the dagger here in Tallahassee. Empty look for Richardson. Oh, that is danger! Oh my! Keidron Smith cuts inside, and he's gonna pick six it in the swamp. Cat scratch fever Smith.
DJ is picked off, intercepted again by Benjamin Morrison. Here goes Morrison down the sideline. Can he go? Yes, he can. Touchdown, pick six, Benjamin Morrison. Nix drops back underneath. Touchdown, Ducks. Wow. Chase Taylor.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Week Zero podcast. I am your host this week and maybe forever. I don't know. Lucas McKnight, new host, best host. And then my very good friend. We have grown this friendship because we have been doing these alone, it seems like. For 2 of the last 3 weeks, I want to say, or something like that. Josh Battlehawk Bryant. Is that XFL Battlehawks?
It sure is.
Oh, dude.
Oh,
Hey.
I knew it. There
Battlehawks,
he is.
baby. Let's
Right
go.
there. Let's go.
I'm stoked. Stoked for the XFL season to start.
Mhm.
For everybody watching, which is probably nobody so far,
Yep.
we're going to go over some off-the-wall topics. We didn't really plan too much. Did I? No, I didn't.
No.
For a second,
no,
I
we
thought
didn't.
I was. For a second, I thought I was live on Andrew Coster's channel, which would be
Whoa,
kind
that
of
would
funny. That would be kind of funny.
We would definitely have more views.
Yeah, for sure. We should start using that. He didn't kick us out yet.
Oh, geez, don't do that.
So a few we didn't really plan for this too well. Like I said, we're just going to have some random topics here. No banners this week because I didn't care to make any. So our first topic, something that I saw, another football player, college football player this time, in cardiac arrest at 21 years of age. His name is Kasim Valls. Wednesday morning, according to his father, he was resuscitated and then placed on a ventilator. He is a defensive lineman for Jackson State University, which we have been hearing some things out of Jackson State after Dion left, getting things stolen from the locker room and just a few poor things happening at Jackson State.
Mhm.
I'll give you a few more details on it. His heart was functioning at around 10 to 15% capacity, which clearly is not good.
No.
I am curious, and I want your thoughts on this. What these, maybe even team doctors or coaches can do to prevent this kind of stuff from happening, because it seems like it's happening more and more. Maybe it's just because of the jump in social media, and so we're seeing it more, but it seems like it's happening more and more as time goes on.
Yeah, I remember years ago you would hear about maybe one a season or something like that. Someone with some sort of genetic abnormality or something, or there's something that really big people get. It's essentially their heart grows too big and then it can't pump blood quite as well. I'm actually pretty knowledgeable with medical stuff of I've got doctors and family,
Nurses
but
and family members.
yeah. So all this stuff that's popping up, it can be a combination of things. We're not going to say anything that could be political or anything like that. If you have, I mean, people have their opinions on certain things. Um,
Mm-hmm.
we can talk about, yeah, social media is a lot bigger than it used to be. So maybe it's not happening more. We're just hearing about it a lot more. Another thing, we're one of the most caffeinated generations to ever live. So you could think maybe this is a result of pre-workout. This could be energy drinks. This could be just a plethora of things. But what it certainly is a tragedy for a young man to have his heart stop and have to be resuscitated, and now he's on a ventilator. And I uh, really hope he can recover and get back
For sure.
because
So
something like that is just crazy.
reading into it a little bit more, it sounds like so the doctors think that his heart was failing previous. Um, he was having stomach pains, random stomach pains, and they think that that had something to do with the with his heart failing. Apparently, his liver was filling with fluid,
Ooh,
and with all kinds of toxins from the kidneys and blood and all this kind of stuff. And um, supposedly, from what his father has said, he's actually progressing. And they're going to give him less and less medication over time, which is good.
hmm
But obviously, it sucks for anybody that's ever put on a ventilator, because I don't know the numbers, Josh. I don't know if you know the numbers, but I want to say it's close to 80% of people put on a ventilator don't end up making it through it, or they're going to have to be on a ventilator until they croak at the end of the day. I know that the number is pretty high. And we saw that real bad during the COVID pandemic. I can't say that. During the pandemic. So moving on to something a little bit more lighthearted and actual college football stuff.
hmm
Here, I saw this and it intrigued me. ESPN addresses how Iowa can make the 2023 college football playoff.
Are we expanding it to 32 teams now? What's going on?
I don't know. I very, very interesting. So it's saying here, it's basically ESPN is basically basing their thoughts off of the last year's TCU's like crazy run. And so
Uh-huh.
I think we're going to be seeing a lot more of those where they're like, oh, this team just put together some players and, maybe they can make a TCU type run, or, kind of that after we
I hate,
watch TCU do that. I agree.
yeah,
I
I
agree.
hate that maybe they could have a TCU type season, that type of run, a magical run that never ever happens. Come on. Good Lord. And what's ESPN's reasoning? They just got a bunch of dudes transferring on, and
So their biggest reason is the fact that they don't play Iowa State or Michigan in the regular season. That leaves them only with Penn State as their toughest opponent. Now, Penn State,
well,
I
Penn
think,
State is gonna be a sledgehammer this
yeah,
next year. I
I
think
agree.
they're gonna.
I agree.
I think Penn State might be the second best team in the Big Ten, but
I
that's a bold
honestly,
statement
I
for
agree
me.
with that. I agree with that. I don't know who. Actually, I'd be curious. I'm gonna look this up real quick because, I don't know who Iowa brought in the transfer portal.
hmm
I swear they brought in a good quarterback, and not necessarily a good quarterback, but he was a A quarterback. Let's see all these transfers. Yeah, so they brought in Cade McNamara,
Yeah.
which is a big one. Eric All from Michigan as well, coming in. God dang, they actually got a lot of transfers.
Yeah, they
Big
sure
ol'
did.
offensive tackle, Dejon Parker, Deacon Hill, quarterback from Wisconsin, offensive guard from Maryland, Rusty Feth. And then Rusty Feth, that is a interesting name. And then a linebacker
Nick
from
Jackson.
Virginia. Yeah, linebacker
Yeah.
from Virginia. Looks like they had a okay, I guess, recruiting class is really not that good. Especially to try to compete in the Big Ten at 45th overall in the 247 recruiting. But bringing in McNamara is huge. And I know that he obviously lost his job to JJ McCarthy. JJ, I believe, was a 5-star coming out. Like he was one of the most highly touted quarterbacks coming out as a dual threat. But Cade McNamara, he's good. He got them there.
Yeah.
He's a guy that got them to the college football playoff. Won a crap ton of games at Michigan. So maybe, but like we said, I mean,
I can
Michigan,
see
Ohio State, Penn State. I mean, those teams are just monsters. Those teams are even with
absolutely.
Ohio State taking a step back. They're always a team that's going to end up winning 9 to 12 games in a regular season. So, yeah, they're monsters. So I don't see Iowa.
I don't see them making it to the playoff, but I can definitely see Iowa having a run. If these players gel well together, and three of those guys I think were team captains of their respective teams they transferred from, and if they can put pieces together, if they can work together, get it done, I can see them having a stellar year. I just don't think they're gonna. I think that's a little bit of clickbait from ESPN.
I could see what I see for Iowa, I could see a 9-win team. I could see 9 wins. Will they get more than that? I don't know. But with Iowa, they're always that team where what was it? Was it 2019 when Wisconsin was like 8-0 or something like that? And they were like the most fake 8-0 anybody has ever seen. And then they ended up losing like 4 of their last, like the end of their season. So, I could see Iowa being like that, where they win a bunch and then they take on Penn State, get throttled by Penn State, and then lose like 1 or 2 after that just because their morale is down. That I could definitely see that.
So we have a comment here from Wicked Bronco Productions. It says, so I heard Ryan and Conor quit the podcast. What's the deal with that? We need the deets on this story. Brooklyn Nets all over again?
So Conor is too busy doing better media things, more important media. And then Ryan, he became too big for us. He just got too big.
I know.
He's off doing
some people
bigger and better. Some people just get money and then they just dip from their old friends, and that's just unfortunately.
It is what it is. Obviously, we wish Ryan and Conor the best with their prospective investments and ventures. It's
unfortunate.
It is. It really is.
I'm not gonna be sad taking that Notre Dame logo off the top of our banner though.
No, and we finally get to get rid of the VT thing up there.
We finally get to get rid of the VT and the Notre Dame. We're gonna
dragging
have
us down, man.
It is dragging us down. It's making us depressed. All the things. Maybe if Ryan, asks really nicely, we'll let him back in. But for now. He's just too big for his britches, and he had to go do something better. But on more important news,
There we go.
Our next topic here. This one was actually a cool one, and after seeing who's number 10 on this list, I think it would be fun to talk about. Ranking the college football's top 10 hardest schedules of the 2023 season, and coming in at number 10, the Kentucky Wildcats. Opponent record for next season, 93-61 from last year. And then opponents win percentage, 60.4%. Their hardest game, and I'll just read these down and then have you get into it after. Their hardest game is November 11th against Alabama on their schedule. What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on Kentucky's schedule coming into next season?
Okay. Kentucky's schedule is very heavy with home games this next season. So it's, although there's a little bit, there's like a 4-game streak where I would be surprised if they went more than 1-3. Yeah, it gets bad. Towards that November and the end of October, believe we see. Let me pull it up.
Yeah,
but I believe we get Tennessee right after a bye week.
Oof.
Yeah.
So you got Tennessee after the bye week, Mississippi State, who brings back their quarterback. They could still be good.
Well, Bama, I mean, and it's at Mississippi State.
Yeah.
So we get Tennessee at home after a bye week, which Kentucky always seems to lose after a bye week. Mississippi State. And that's not a knock on Tennessee. Tennessee is not a bad team. Not saying that we're only going to lose because it's after the bye week. It's just it's been a trend that I've been seeing in the Stoops era.
Yeah, and it's hard and it's hard to play a team like, I mean, I've said it before. I think Tennessee is going to reload like previous like Alabama teams that we've seen. I just think they're going to reload. I don't think they're going to be as like take as much of a drop as some people may think. So coming off a bye week and then playing probably a top 10 team, top 15 team in Tennessee, that's tough.
Yeah. So Tennessee, Mississippi State, then who is it? Georgia?
Then you got Bama at home.
Oh, Bama at home.
And then you play at South Carolina.
Okay, at South Carolina. That is a tough stretch.
Yes.
And although that's a tough stretch, I don't think Alabama at Kentucky is the toughest game.
Alabama, I mean, your toughest game is probably in Athens.
Yeah, it's definitely at Stanford.
But then again, we don't know. I mean, we don't know how Georgia's going to reload, but they are one of those teams that they just find a way to reload every year.
I really think now they won't have the dude as a quarterback anymore. They won't have that guy as a quarterback anymore. But I really don't think that's going to affect them a whole lot. They're just going to need a guy who can throw to Brock Bowers on third down.
I'd be curious. I'm going to look this up as well. Georgia may be on this list, but I do want to see one, if they have any rostered quarterbacks that are any good, and then two, that's right, Carson Beck. That's the guy that is likely going to start. He was the backup last year. I think the last 2 years he's been the backup. Likely going to be the starter next season for them. I don't think they didn't get any transfers. I know that. That I know of anyways. Anybody important.
So looking at Kentucky's schedule, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 home games.
8, yeah, I did notice that. 8 home games.
That's a lot.
Ridiculous. Is ridiculous.
We only go to Nashville, Athens, Starkville, and Columbia. Like, if ever there was a time for Kentucky to overperform, this is a really good schedule to have. You could really build
for
momentum
sure.
at the front end of it. They could be 5-0 before they play Georgia.
I think they will be. I think they will be 5-0. And this is not a prediction. We will get into our SEC, ACC, Pac-12, all this stuff. We'll get into those predictions on a later show, probably during the summer. But
Yeah.
if I had to look at the schedule right now, I think 5-0 heading into Georgia. You lose that game. I still think – I said this before. I do think Missouri is really good. I think you guys beat them, but I do think Missouri is a really good team, and they will be good moving forward. So 6-1 going into the bye week. I think you take at least two. I think you go 2-2 through this 4-game stretch.
I will take 2-2 through the 4-game stretch.
I think you go 2-2 through the 4-game stretch. I think you can depending on how Alabama reloads this year, I think you can maybe beat them at home. Have the momentum at home.
That would make my day.
It's possible. I think that make your season.
Oh my God, that would be so nice.
And then I think you stomp Louisville going into the last game, going into the SEC title. You guys probably won't be there, but at 9-3 to end the year, 9-3 to end the year, I think is a really good year for Kentucky, given
absolutely
the season.
It would be one of the best seasons that Kentucky has had. Even though we've been graced with some 10-win seasons, those have been with the bowl game.
Right.
So possibly, depending on how some of these other teams do, depending on how Tennessee does, depending on how Alabama, LSU do, we might see Kentucky in a New Year's Six Bowl this year. And I would love, because that would be the first time that's ever happened.
And the thing is, too, is that you guys are in the same division as Georgia, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we are. So
SEC title
people will
really
be talking
isn't
about. Not really, no. So people will be talking about, oh, can Kentucky finally challenge Georgia for the East this year? No, it's not going to happen. And that doesn't make me a bad fan. I just know where Kentucky football is, and I know where the back-to-back reigning national championship Georgia Bulldogs are.
Right.
And
probably
they're not the same.
I argue this. I genuinely believe that Kirby Smart is the best coach in college football currently.
For sure.
I think he's the best coach in college football, and I think he's going to be able to reload this team and make them really good.
I'll put this on the record. I think Missouri is going to be a bottom feeder in the East for the next 2 years. And I also think that Eli Drinkwitz is a nerd. That's it. That's it.
I disagree. I disagree with that. I think Missouri is going to be a good squad moving forward.
That's a weird dynamic too, because for the longest time, which Kentucky has whooped up on Missouri for a long time.
Right.
But every year before the season starts, it's always all this hype for Missouri. Like they're getting all these dudes and everything, all this hype. And then it turns out to be, oh, so they're not the they're not the guys.
Yeah, I watching Missouri play this year, I just think with their young quarterback that they have, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but he's really good, and he played really, really well against Georgia. I see them coming out and playing well. Now, do they win a lot of games? No, I don't think they even win 9 games this year. I think they're probably a 7-5 or 8-4 team, but
well, that's still a better season than they had last year.
Yeah, that's good for Missouri. But moving on, we were stuck on number 10 for a while because it was obviously your favorite team. Number 9, Kansas State. Opponents record 96-62. Opponents win percentage 62.7%. And their hardest game that they have for them is at Texas on November 4th. Looking at their schedule, they do play Missouri. They play at Missouri, as we were just speaking about them a minute ago. But they have a tough schedule. They have a tough one, and I assume you're pulling it up there, but I'll
I am.
speak my mind on it. They played Troy week 2, which Troy we know isn't a team to sleep on. Like I said, they play Missouri at Missouri. They got UCF, which is a real tough team. They get the bye week, and then they take on Oklahoma State, which we don't know how Oklahoma State.
Hold on. Do they not have a week 0 game?
Not this year, no.
I thought they did. I thought they played.
September
Am I
2nd
wrong?
is September 2nd is their week 1. I think that's week 1.
Okay.
Southeast.
All right. Gotcha.
TCU.
Yeah.
I want to say TCU plays a week 0 against Colorado, if I'm not mistaken.
That's what it was. I knew there was one out there.
No, they play week 1. Huh. I don't know.
Okay.
Maybe I
All
don't
right,
know.
we'll find out.
We'll figure it out eventually. But
hold on. We got a comment. You tread 2012. Just remember, it's all made up, and the punts don't matter. That's right. That's don't.
True. Punts do not matter. If you watch my Madden game, punts do not. They don't even exist. But looking at this, going into the bye week, after the bye week they take on Oklahoma State. Like I said before, I don't know how Oklahoma State's even going to be after Spencer Sanders is gone. They could be even better because he is an interception machine. Take on Texas Tech at Texas Tech, then TCU, Houston at Texas. They come back home to play Baylor at Kansas, and then back home at Iowa State. What do you think?
Well, the real question is, do you think they make it back to the Big 12 championship?
Are they in the same division as Texas? Because if they are, then no.
You think Texas is going to make it up there?
Yes.
They I don't think they have divisions there. They play everybody.
That's right. It's the same. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say no. I'm going to say no because I do think that even with TCU losing quite a bit next year, and this is not a prediction. Remember, these are not predictions. But even with TCU losing a lot, I do think they're probably still the best team in the Big 12, even though obviously Kansas State beat them last year in the Big 12 title. Kind of a fluky game, but
it's hard to beat anyone twice.
Yeah, it's tough to beat anybody twice. But I think TCU and Texas are probably the best 2 teams going into it. So no, I do not. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think they can repeat or even make it back? Or
well, let's go through it, right? Red Hawks, they win. Troy is nothing to sneeze at, but I think they can get it done. It's at home. Then they go to Missouri, which they'll have to watch out for, but I honestly think they can get her done. Yeah, absolutely. Then they have UCF at home. I think they beat UCF. So we're starting out 4-0, and then they get a bye week.
I wonder if Rice Plumlee is back. Is he back as their quarterback for UCF?
For UCF,
I think that would be a big factor in that if UCF's quarterback is back, because I know they still have that 5-star running back. The kid was a monster last year.
Yeah, let's see. Is this? Hold on, UCF.
They had John Rice Plumlee.
Okay, gotcha. They're not going into the Big 12, are they?
What?
Yeah.
They're not going. Not this year.
No, not this year. I didn't think so. That's something else I can look up.
That's weird.
I'll let you do all the fun lookups. I'm gonna look up this.
I don't know that he's coming back. I haven't heard anything about it, but he did play in the 2020 year which makes me believe that he has 2 more years of eligibility because I have a feeling he probably redshirted in 2021, takes his 2020 year, and then has 2 more years. So I'm going to assume that John Rhys Plumlee is back, which makes it a toss-up game for me. However, it doesn't really matter. I think for that, it's a toss-up game for me. They could either be 3-1 heading into the bye week or 4-0. Either way.
Yeah. Okay, so 3-1 or 4-0. Then you're at Oklahoma State, which was a really inconsistent team last year. Like you had some games where they showed up and they played really well. Some games they didn't. And actually, no, I'm thinking of Oklahoma. Oklahoma State had a decent season.
I think they ended the season 10-3, if I'm not mistaken. No.
Yeah. No.
It was either 9-4 or 10-3. Either way.
Anyways,
but they do not.
decent
They
season.
don't have Spencer Sanders anymore. So
That's right. All right.
I think that's a win.
Okay.
win. I think we chalk that down to a win.
Okay. So now we're possibly 5-0, 4-1
Yeah.
at Texas Tech. They can win that game.
I think they can win. It's tough to play in Jerry World. But I think they probably end up beating Texas Tech in that one.
Yeah. And then after that one, they get TCU at home.
You get TCU at home.
Yeah. Boy,
I don't
it
know.
sure would be nice if Kansas State could beat TCU at home.
Right. I mean, I'm chalking it up to a loss. Just because I do think TCU is still the best team in the Big 12. I say still, even though Kansas State won the Big 12 last year, but I do think they are the best team. Going into Houston, I think they dominate Houston. I don't think it's even close.
At Texas.
I think they lose to Texas. I think they lose to Texas at Texas.
Gotcha.
Baylor, that's another toss-up for me because can Baylor come back to their 2021 Baylor?
That 2021 Baylor was a mean machine there.
Or are they going to revert to their 2022 Baylor where they were just very, very lackluster? And I think they finished, 7-6 or something like that?
I don't even think it was that good. I don't even think it was that good. I don't think they won the bowl game.
They went to a bowl game. I don't know if they won it.
Yeah. Maybe
6-7, something like that. Yeah, I think they win that. I think it's still a toss-up, but I think they probably win. Kansas. Do we see College Game Day in Lawrence, Kansas for this game?
Again.
Do we see it? It?
Honestly, Kansas caught lightning in the bottle last year. I don't think they can do it again. I think we're going to see the return of Kansas of old. I don't like saying it because I was a big fan of Kansas going to a bowl game and good.
That's fair.
They were projected to win. I think the over under was 1.5 games.
1.5.
Like
somebody won a lot of money.
So hey, some Kansas fan won a lot of money. Some Kansas basketball fan
put his whole
got
life
mistaken and accidentally bet on the football team and came up with a lot of money.
State. He thought it was Kansas State, ended up being Kansas, and he paid out. And then they finished the season against Iowa State, which is probably a win there. I don't know. Cyclones, they took a big dip. After losing Brock Purdy and Breece Hall. Which who could have thunk Brock Purdy would have been what he is now? Somebody might have won a lot of money off of that too. But I don't know. I mean, like I said, I still think that Texas and TCU go. Like, do you think Kansas State gets back?
I think Kansas State, although they have this really tough schedule, I think they're going to make a lot out of it. I can see 8+ wins here, which Kansas State fans might not like that because they're coming off of a conference championship. I can see them back in the conference championship game. You get a ball bounce here. The wind blowing hard one day. Um, I honestly think they could. I mean, nobody saw it coming last year except for us.
Yeah,
Oh,
apparently.
I'm sorry, Ryan.
Someone that will not be named.
Someone's it's no longer here.
No longer with us on the show. So going to number 8, moving on. We're only at number 8. We gotta
Oh
keep
Jesus,
keep
yeah.
these
Let's keep
moving. We
moving.
gotta keep these moving. Ohio State 94-60 is opponent record. Opponent win percentage 61.0%. Their toughest game being against Michigan.
I don't agree. I don't agree that Ohio State has the eighth toughest schedule.
Okay.
I just they're I don't who all do they play? Do they play Michigan, Michigan State,
I think their
Penn
biggest
State, Iowa? They'd have to play all of them, but I honestly think that who do they play from the West?
So
'Cause
they
that
play.
matters.
I think what adds into it is the Notre Dame game, which is going to be a huge game. They
Yeah,
do have Penn State, Wisconsin, Michigan State, of course, and then Michigan. Minnesota is never a team to really, kind of sleep on. Rutgers, that's an easy win. Purdue, you never freaking know with Purdue, as I'm wearing like Purdue colors on my hat.
well, I mean, Purdue's coach left and went to Louisville.
Yeah, but I mean, it's Purdue, man. I don't know. There's something in the
I
water
know.
in Purdue
There
where
has to be.
they'll lose 9 games in a season, but their 3 wins are going to be against Michigan, Ohio State, and Penn State. So it just doesn't make any sense with Purdue, but they play Maryland and Columbus. That's probably an easy win. Their first 3 games of the season, cakewalks. I mean, Western Kentucky, Youngstown State, and Indiana, absolute cakewalks.
Then at Notre Dame, which that's going to be a good game to see in person. That's going to be nuts.
I can't.
No, me neither.
I'm so stoked that our friend that used to be on the show is getting us there.
Yep.
But I mean, you look at Notre Dame, Penn State, Wisconsin, Michigan State, Michigan. Those are 5 tough games.
They are.
Actually,
they absolutely are.
I'm gonna take that back. I think. What the hell? I think Minnesota is a tougher game than Michigan State.
The Golden Gophers.
The Golden Gophers.
I
think they're a tougher team to beat than Michigan State, but still,
especially late in the season.
And the big thing too is that like they have Wisconsin and Michigan on the road, and Notre Dame. Wisconsin, Michigan, and Notre Dame on the road. So you never know. Never know,
at Michigan, you know what? I'd say Michigan's the better team. So that'll definitely be a punching up game.
Yes.
It's
sure.
I don't think that when they make these lists, they really consider what games are punching up and punching down.
Here's a big thing that they have for it. Really, the whole thing is like based off of last year. That's like their biggest their biggest thing is basing it off of last year, not what these teams are going to look like moving forward. But they face off against 9 teams that had winning records last fall. So, I mean, that does change things in my eyes a little bit. I mean, 9 of their 12 games are against teams with winning records. Now, a winning record is 7 or more wins, but
those are still teams that know how to win.
That know how to win for sure.
All right. What's the
moving on to number 7?
Yeah, what's the next one?
Iowa State Cyclones. We spoke about them a little bit a minute ago. 97-61 is their opponent's record. Opponent's win percentage 61.4%. Toughest game, they have them against Oklahoma as their toughest game, which is, I don't know how they're number 7 if their toughest game is Oklahoma, but I
Yeah. Really?
I don't make these lists.
Yeah. So Iowa State. Let's look at it, right?
Damn,
Northern
they
Iowa,
open the
Iowa,
game. They open the season against Iowa week 2.
Iowa week 2. Yeah.
Do they usually play them that early?
I don't know if they play them that early usually. I'm not super. I know they usually play them either halfway through the season or it's usually before halfway through the season.
Wow.
Because sometimes it's a game day kind of,
Right.
game. But yeah, Northern Iowa, so they don't leave the state for 2 weeks. Then they go at Ohio, which, by the way, Northern Iowa and Iowa are both at home. Um, then they have Oklahoma State at home. Then they go at Oklahoma. Then they get TCU at home. I think that TCU game would be tougher.
So I think it's mostly their second half of the season. Look at their second half.
Oklahoma State, Oklahoma, TCU, Cincinnati, Baylor, Kansas, BYU, Texas, and Kansas State. Those last 3 games are.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
I'm
tough.
not going to give.
Okay,
I'm not going to give too much to BYU, but go ahead.
I'm not going to give too much to BYU either, but they are a team that can reload and can be decent. I personally think that Ohio State has a tougher record. I know that it's basing it all off of like win percentage and opponents' record from last year. That's how they're basing all this off of. But I do think that Ohio State's schedule next year is probably a little bit tougher. I by no means think that Oklahoma game is their toughest game. They play at Kansas State the last week of the season.
Yeah.
I think that's easily their toughest game on their schedule.
And I don't know if you have this up on ESPN, but they go through Ticketmaster and look at ticket prices.
Mm-hmm.
So
I have it. I'm on footballschedules.com.
Okay. All right. So the Iowa game, you can tell it's an important rivalry. It's over $200 a ticket.
Damn.
But once you get down to that last game of the season at Kansas State, $35 a ticket. So obviously those are for cheap seats, but that's what the consensus is for that.
Preparing for a blowout, which I think we all are. Iowa State, I don't know. Based off of their schedule, I don't think they're going to be a bowl eligible team, unfortunately, for the Cyclones. But
no, and we can say what we want about which team we think should be on here, but no doubt this is a tough schedule. Like you said, the last 7 games are just brutal.
Brutal for sure. Brutal, especially for a team that isn't very good in the first place.
Yeah.
Moving forward to tied for number 6. So these both have the same opponent's win percentage and they have the same opponent's record. So tied for number 6. So number 6, Florida at 96 and 60 and 61.5%. Their toughest game against Georgia. Obviously.
That's what it would be.
To me, I think this is the season that
oh my God.
Honestly,
I just pulled it up. Jesus.
It depends on how they see it, and it depends on how they view this season, because it could be a season where they're like, well, this is a really tough year. We're going to give you a pass. But I think after last year, Billy Napier is on the hot seat already. And
he shouldn't be.
He shouldn't be.
But it's Florida.
It's the SEC and it's Florida. If you don't win games now in the SEC and you don't compete, you're going to be on the hot seat in the SEC. It's just kind of how it is.
So let's rattle these off. If you remember, Utah came down to Florida week 2 last year.
Yes.
Well, week 1, Florida is at Utah.
That's tough.
Then they're at home versus McNeese, which is just put that ball on the tee and hit it, kid, because that's all you got. You got to show up and play a football game to win that one. Then they're at home versus Tennessee. Swamp is a hard place to play. I think Tennessee gets the win.
Yep.
Then you got Charlotte at home, which you should win.
Another one.
Another one, yeah. And then you're at Kentucky, which that's going to be a tough one. Then you've got Vanderbilt. Then you're at South Carolina. Then you got Georgia at a neutral site. That's not at home.
It basically is at home.
It's almost at home. Yeah, but like half the tickets and half the tickets. It's going to be tough. Then you've got Arkansas at home, at LSU, at Missouri, and then versus Florida State at the end.
Ooh, that non-con against Florida State.
That non-con against Florida State. That's the main one. And I think Florida State's going to be good this year.
I do too. I said they were going to be good last year, and they turned out to be a pretty solid team, and they're just bringing in more dudes and keeping all of them from last season. I think Florida State's going to be really, really good. I don't see a bowl game. I don't see a bowl. I don't see a bowl game out of Florida.
Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, that's not a bowl game.
7 losses.
7 losses. That's just looking over cursory. We could go into why at LSU will be a night game, will be a murder. I hope not for Florida's sake. I really do. I hope that they're better than they were last year. It's just they don't have Anthony Richardson.
They're gonna be worse. I mean, let's be honest. They're gonna be worse. Unfortunately, I see a ceiling. Like quite literally a ceiling of 6-6 is their ceiling. And
now here's the question. Even at 6-6, are they a better Florida team than they were last year?
No.
Okay.
Because I think last year their ceiling was a 9-3 team. I do think that they were good enough to win 9 games. They just couldn't put it together. I think they ended the season like 8-5 or something like that. I think it was the end record. No, because they lost their bowl game, so they were probably like 7-6.
Yeah, 7-6
or something like that. They got destroyed in their bowl game by Oregon State. So tough for them. So tied for 6th.
Yeah, it's a tough one.
The Houston Cougars.
Oh, the Cougs.
96-60. Obviously the same as the other guys, 61.5% opponent win percentage. Their toughest game next year, they have it against Texas.
Schedule. Okay. All right, let's go through it. Week 1, they have UTSA at home. That'll be a tough one.
Okay.
Week 2, they go to Rice, which you don't lose to food. Just don't do it.
Rice's new starting quarterback is JT Daniels. Just saying. Anything.
West Virginia's new starting quarterback was JT Daniels. Just saying.
They won some games.
Yeah, I know. They beat Baylor and Pitt, and not much else.
Hey, they won some games that they shouldn't have. All right, so
I'm
not counting out Rice. Do I think that Houston wins? Probably, but I'm not counting out Rice.
Okay,
which is hilarious. It's hilarious that this is an away game. Because
what happened? But it is Houston. Like it's not. It's not just, Texas.
It's just funny that it's like. That Rice and Houston are both in Houston, but it's like they have to play at Rice. So it's I just think it's funny.
It's the other side of town. It's a short bus ride. It's like a high school football game.
Basically.
All right. And then you've got TCU at home. Then you've got Sam Houston at home, which should be a win.
Should be.
Then you're at Texas Tech. Then you play West Virginia.
Should be a win.
It's at West Virginia. Sorry.
It's
No. I'm sorry. That's
it's
home.
at
That's home. That's
At
home.
home.
Yeah, that's my
Yeah.
bad. I misread it. Then you've got Texas at home. You go to Kansas State, to Baylor. You got Cincinnati at home, Oklahoma State at home, and then you play at UCF.
Another team that I see their ceiling at like 6-6. That is a rough schedule.
Yeah,
I mean, that is a
absolutely. I
rough
mean,
schedule.
there's a real chance of UTSA just coming in there and handing them an L week 1.
And what's crazy about it too is that it's a really good chance that they go into the bye week at 4-1. I mean, it's possible that they go into the bye week at 4-1. They beat West Virginia, go to 5-1, and then they lose 5 of their last 6.
Yeah, it'll be brutal, and it'll be just a little disheartening for the Cougs a little bit after that bye week.
And then, I mean, do you put Dana Holgerson on the hot seat? I mean, he's 27-7 as the head coach the last 4 years. Not yet.
No.
Okay, fair enough. So number 5,
27-7.
yeah.
He's what?
No. Sorry.
Other way around?
Mistalked.
Is it the other way around?
No, it is 27-20.
Oh, see, that
misspoke.
changes things,
I
Lucas.
misspoke. Yes.
Maybe.
27-20 in 4 years at Houston.
Okay, so slightly above, or I shouldn't say slightly. That's above.
Whoa, wait. Houston's in the Big 12 this year.
Yeah.
I did not know. I blew my mind. I did
Dude,
not know that.
dude,
Okay.
we're shuffling conferences, bro. Like, it's going to be
Yeah, man.
ridiculous these next couple of years.
Crazy. So, okay, number 5, Missouri, 97-60 opponent record. Opponent's win percentage, 61.8%. Hardest game is Georgia. We kind of already went over the SEC a little bit, so we don't need to go into Missouri too much. They have a brutal, what it says on here, brutal second half of the season. They play at home against LSU, at Kentucky, at home against South Carolina, at Georgia, at home against Tennessee, at home against Florida, and then at Arkansas. So tough. I mean, it's tough. Like I said before, I think they're a 7-5 team.
Okay, so Missouri has a chance to go to start the season 4-1 or maybe 5-0 if they can pull off an upset because they got Kansas State coming to them. Another thing, their first 4 games are at home.
That's huge.
That's huge.
It's huge. It's huge for the start of the season, but I think it's going to hurt them at the end.
Yeah. Well,
like
and then they start conference play. First team they get is Vanderbilt.
Ceiling for them, for me, is 8-4. Floor is 4-8. So it could really go either way for Missouri. I'm gonna move on from them. We spoke a lot about.
That's a 7-5.
7-5 is where I'm leaning. I think their ceiling is definitely 8-4. But I think I'm leaning to 7-5. Number 4, Ole Miss.
Ole Miss.
They bring
That's
in
a different side of the conference.
So they have a couple good quarterbacks at Ole Miss. Now they have Spencer Sanders coming in, as well as obviously last year. What's his nut from USC? Jackson Dart is still there. So bring in some good guys. They also got a transfer from LSU. Don't remember his name, but he was a highly touted recruit for LSU. Now at Ole Miss. Their opponent's record 95-58. Opponent's win percentage 62.1%. Hardest game November 11th against Georgia. I mean, Ole Miss.
Let's.
I don't know. I just don't know. I never.
Okay, let's.
I'm gonna say this real quick. The thing about Mississippi schools is I never freaking know how good they're gonna be because Mississippi State could be extremely good for no reason, and then Ole Miss can also be extremely good for no reason. It's just
Yeah, you can have uh,
or they could both
Dak
suck.
Prescott just pop out of nowhere. Okay,
Yeah.
so here we go. Week 1, Mercer at home, the win at Tulane. I don't know. Tulane was a bit of a rocket last year. We'll see.
Yeah, it'd be
Former
interesting.
SEC members going out there. Okay. Then you've got Georgia Tech. That's a win. Then you're at Alabama for your first
Oof.
SEC game. Oof, is right. And you don't get to rest because the next week you've got LSU at home.
Yeah, that's tough.
So had 2 losses right there. Then you're at Arkansas. We'll see what Arkansas can do. There was a
Arkansas
little
is
bit of
at
hype.
home. Arkansas is at home.
That's right. I keep messing that up.
You're good.
So you've got Arkansas at home. We'll see what Arkansas does this coming season.
Be
It's
interesting.
kind of a question mark. They had that excellent 2021 season, and then this past season, 2022, it just kind of fell on its face. They lost a lot of momentum.
A
I think
lot
they had
like
some
Baylor.
injuries.
A lot like
Yeah,
Baylor.
a lot like Baylor. Then you're at Auburn. Then you got Vanderbilt coming to you, Texas A&M coming to you, at Georgia.
That should be 3 straight wins.
Should be. Texas A&M might accept the 8-4 at that point. We don't know. Then you're at Georgia. Then you've got ULM at home, and then you're at Mississippi State. I see 1, 2, 3, 4.
I see 7.
5. I see maybe 5 losses.
I see 5 losses, 7 wins.
7 wins. Okay, so we're same page.
Yep.
Yeah, same.
Way for me. All right, moving forward to number 3, which is West Virginia. Not a good season to have the number 3 hardest. Replacing their quarterback, so definitely not a good year to have their hardest. My baby is screaming in the back.
I hear her. She's just upset you're talking about West Virginia.
I know, right? So pulling up their schedule, apparently they don't get a bye week. When's their bye week? Because it's not. Oh wait, no. I was looking at something else. My bad.
Yeah.
I was so confused. Okay,
that first week of October is their bye in between TCU and Houston.
Yeah, I see it. I see it now. I was looking at the wrong season.
At Penn State. Yeah.
Oh my goodness!
Week 1, baby.
Put them on the boat and light a fire, like
rude awakening. Then you have I always called this place Duquesne.
It's Duquesne, yeah, it's Duquesne.
Okay, good. Then you've got the backyard brawl. Duquesne.
Yeah, backyard brawl.
Backyard brawl. Back. Absolutely, I'm glad it's back. Everyone who's a college football fan loves that.
It shouldn't have been as close as it was last year, but
no,
I love that. I love that rivalries just bring in great games.
It was a classic too. Oh, it was so good. One of the best games of the season, and both of those teams really underperformed that year.
Yeah, well, Pitt did pretty good. They won and they throttled whoever they played in their bowl game. So I think Pitt, and the thing about Pitt too is that their running back may be the best running back in the country next year, and Abanikanda, that kid is insane.
We'll see. There's a couple of guys at Ole Miss, so we'll see.
A couple guys at Ole Miss,
which is crazy. At Ole Miss, right? So we're talking. Ole Miss might have a backfield of. Oh, you're good. I'll just talk. Ole Miss might have a backfield of. He had to go take care of his new baby girl. Ole Miss might have a backfield of 2,000-yard rushers this season. They're a little insane. But let's continue on this West Virginia schedule here. We've got Pittsburgh coming to you. Then we've got Texas Tech. coming to West Virginia. So the first 4 games of the season, 3 of them are home games. That's good. That first game being Penn State does you no favors. Then we're going to go to TCU. Oof. Then you're at Houston. Oof again. Then you've got Oklahoma State coming back to you. Then you're going to UCF.
Tough.
Yeah, it can be. We're going to see how UCF does. Then you've got BYU at home. You're at Oklahoma, Cincinnati at home, and then you're at Baylor.
I think that's a decent end to your season. I mean, that could easily be 4 straight wins to cap off your year. I know it is West Virginia, but
Could be. I don't see them beating BYU, but
that could be 4 straight wins. I mean, it's possible. Oklahoma may be good next year. Who freaking knows about them?
Nobody knows. For sure, they may not even have defense.
Do I think they go to a bowl game? No, I do not think that West Virginia goes to a bowl game.
You think Penn State just kind of demoralizes them?
I mean, yeah. I mean, they might win that game by 60. And is it at Penn State? Like that's a rough one.
Is that a big
the number 3 spot?
Is that a big noon kickoff game?
Yeah, probably. Maybe. So moving forward to our next one, not good for this team. Specifically because of their coach, that they just paid a lot of money. Do you want to guess who it is that they paid a shitload of money to just to go 5-7 last year? You think? No, nothing.
Just give it to me.
Michigan State.
Oh yeah.
So 96.
I forgot about that.
Opponent record, 62.7% opponent's record. They play their hardest game is at Ohio State. Now I argue that because I think their hardest game is going to be in East Lansing against Washington week 3.
Okay.
If you'll notice, their first 4 games of the season is at home.
At home,
which is always a good thing. But they do play Washington. Like I said, last year Washington blew the brakes off of Michigan State in Seattle, and then so we look at it. Central Michigan at home, obviously. Richmond at home should both be wins. Washington at home. Probably a loss. Maryland at home. Who knows about Maryland?
Yeah.
Then they play at Iowa. Have their bye week. Then they play at Rutgers. Should be a win there.
Mm-hmm.
They come back home to play against Michigan. They play at Minnesota. Come back home to play Nebraska. Then they finish the season off at Ohio State, at Indiana, and then they come back home finally to play Penn State.
So they could lose those last 3 games, realistically.
So they realistically play 1, 2, 3, 4 teams, maybe even 5, depending on where Iowa is in week 5 in the top 10.
Mm-hmm.
That sucks, dude.
Yeah.
Mel Tucker is going to be on the hottest of seats, and it's unfortunate because this is a really tough schedule, and it sucks to put a coach on the hot seat after a really tough schedule. But when you go, what'd they go in 2021? They were like, they finished the season 11-2 in 2021. They paid him a crap load of money. 2022, they go 5-7. They lose to teams like Maryland. They lost to Michigan. They lost to Indiana this last season. They barely beat Rutgers by 6. Throttled by Penn State, throttled by Ohio State, throttled by Maryland. Minnesota destroyed them. Washington destroyed them. Like, Mel Tucker is in a
he's in a hot seat.
We can't sugarcoat it. He's in a shitty situation right now.
He
And
really with a schedule like this, it's tough.
I don't think
right?
Michigan State got any better from last year either. I really
Okay,
don't.
so realistically, what I see here, 5 wins,
5-7 again. Yeah, it's
5-7 again.
Yeah.
So a couple 5-7 seasons. Do you think Michigan State just kind of sticks with him, see if they get another awesome running back or something like that through a transfer portal, or just something to help this team?
I think they stick with him for at least one more year, and see what he can do in the next year. But if he doesn't win 7 or more games in the year after this season, like in 2024, if he doesn't win 7 or more games,
You think he's gone?
can him. Yep, can him.
Gotcha.
I think this season puts him on the hot seat, and then you gotta get him out of there. After that.
Yeah.
So coming in at number 1, which I don't know if I agree with this after looking at their schedule. South Carolina.
Oh, okay.
Their opponent's record 103-57 last year.
So something you gotta
66%.
Oh, that's why. Okay. So if you're looking at the same schedule that I'm looking at, their ACC non-con is always in. Like they play them every year at the end of the year.
Yes, that is a big one. They play Clemson.
Boy, they got.
Yeah, I mean it's tough. I think it would be tougher if they played Bama in there. Because if you look at it, so if I'm looking at it here, North Carolina start off the season. That's going to be a tough game. Maybe one of the best games. Maybe
that's
even
a neutral site, isn't it? Yeah, that's a neutral site. South Carolina and North Carolina.
It could very well be a college game day game because I don't know how many week 1 games there are, or how many good ones, but South Carolina is going to be a top 20 team, probably top 25 at minimum. North Carolina is probably going to be a top 20 team at minimum. Drake May against Spencer Rattler, I think that that gives you enough of a story as it is.
And if Spencer Rattler can duplicates he had at the end of this past season, that would just be an excellent game.
Insane for sure.
It really would be.
They play Furman. Obviously, it's one of the
That's
SEC.
A win.
It's one of the SEC easies, what I call them, SEC easies. And then they play at Georgia.
Yeah,
going to be a slaughter. At home against Mississippi State. Who knows how Mississippi State's going to be? I spoke about.
Well, part of that is Mississippi State might be decent. The other part of it is Georgia might beat them twice. Because and here's the reason why. South Carolina used to be good, and that's in recent fans' memories. And it's not saying they're not going to be good this season or moving forward, but there was a point in the Spurrier years where they competed at the top of the SEC.
Yeah.
And I believe it wasn't Spurrier had already retired at this point, but it was a game. Georgia was favored by a bunch, and South Carolina ended up upsetting them pretty handily. Can't remember if it was 17. That was still a Spurrier year. Yeah. And it very well might have been that.
They lost to Georgia in 2013. 2017, they lost to Georgia. Let's see. Let's go back. 16. They lost to Georgia that year too. Okay.
It's going to be a lot of those.
Let's see. They got smashed by Georgia that year.
Is it within the past 5 years? Because if it's not, we're just going to bypass it.
Let's see if this would load. There we go. I'm gonna say no.
Okay. All right.
No, yes. So they 2019.
That's what it was.
2019 they beat
Yep.
Georgia at Georgia in overtime.
There you go.
They finished that season 4-8.
Yep. Yep. So in South Carolina's fans' minds, that can always be a competitive game because of that.
Just because you just never know. And then also
Yeah.
they're coming off of a season where they upset and beat the hell out of Tennessee, and then they ended up upsetting Clemson. So
They ran out of fireworks. They scored so much they ran out of fireworks. Gotta love it. So the reason why I brought that up is they could have hope for winning that Georgia game. I don't think it's going to happen, and that just adds to the sleepwalking the next game kind
I
of
think
thing.
the biggest question is, do they improve from their 8-5 schedule or 8-5 season that they had last year?
I think
Do they improve or do they stay?
I think that they very well. I think they will improve. I think they'll be a better team this year. I don't know if their record's going to be better.
Fair enough.
I think they're going to be a better team. I think you might have the same record, but South Carolina fans shouldn't be upset at that. We really want. We got something from Michael Campbell. The LSU versus FSU. Oh, that's week 1. Yeah, that's probably going to be the game day game.
What? That's the LSU FSU. Yeah, for
yes.
sure. That'd be the game day game.
Okay, but moving on from that, at Georgia, then they get Mississippi State at home. Then they go to Neyland at Tennessee. Then they get Florida at home, at Missouri, at Texas A&M. They get Jacksonville State at home, Vanderbilt at home, Kentucky at home, and Clemson at home. So they finish the season with 4 home games.
I mean, the end of the season sounds a lot easier than the beginning. I would say, but still extremely tough because, like we spoke about before at the very beginning of this, we don't know how good Kentucky is really going to be. Could this be one of their better seasons, even though they're losing Levis? We don't know. I mean, it's a lot of these schools were in the same boat where it's like, could they be good even though they're losing their top quarterback? Yes, they could be better.
Mm-hmm.
They could be even better. We don't know. Obviously, taking on Clemson is another team where it's like a year for Cade Klubnik to start. Is he going to be as like what DJ was supposed to be? We don't know. One thing we do know though is that Dabo Swinney knows how to reload. So I think it's going to be a really, really interesting game at the end of the season again. And Clemson's not going to have that chip on their shoulder anymore because they just got beat up last year. So
and I don't know if I know of a Clemson fan who I heard talking about, and this was early last season because I was like, I asked him about Spencer Rattler being at South Carolina. I was like, did that worry him? He's like, no, we're gonna beat South Carolina at least 10 years in a row. Like, no, I'm not worried about them. Well, that didn't work out, did it?
Nope, it did not work out.
No, it did not.
So those are the top 10 toughest schedules into next season. We can wrap it up there. There's not much else to talk about this week. So I'm your host, Lucas, the new host and the best host, McKnight, and my co-host this week, Josh. Go Battlehawks.
Go Battlehawks. That's right.
Bryant. This has been the Week 0 podcast, and we will see you next week, maybe with some guests.
Maybe with some guests. There we go.
All right. See you later, guys.
All right. Peace out, y'all. Go Defenders. You tread 20.